Watch a modern Olympic volleyball match, and you are watching a masterclass in aerial aggression. Athletes are launching themselves 3 feet into the air and striking the ball at highway speeds. A sport built on elite verticality, lightning-fast reflexes, and highly specialized tactical roles, drawing hundreds of millions of viewers worldwide. But the man who invented it would be terrified by what you're seeing right now. He specifically designed this game to be a slow, gentle exercise for aging businessmen. In 1895, William G. Morgan was the physical education director at the YMCA in Holyoke, Massachusetts. Winter was setting in, and Morgan needed a way to keep older members active indoors. The newly invented game of basketball was proving entirely too exhausting and physically punishing for his middle-aged demographic. These strict user constraints forced Morgan to build an entirely new sport from scratch, one that solved his immediate problem but would eventually mutate into a high-impact spectacle. Morgan started pulling mechanics from sports he already knew. He took the visual barrier of a tennis net, the inning structure of baseball, and the use of the hands from handball. He stitched these pieces together into a working prototype and gave it a rather peculiar name, Mintonette. Version 1.0 of Mintonette was chaos. With no player limit, teams could pass the ball infinitely before sending it over a 6.5-foot net. Without a custom ball, they batted a heavy basketball bladder that moved sluggishly through the air. Mintonette lacked elegance and complex strategy, but as a low-stress way to get older guys sweating in a gym in February, it worked perfectly. A year later, Morgan demonstrated the game at a YMCA training school. A spectator named Professor Alfred T. Halstead zeroed in on the game's defining visual mechanic. The players were constantly batting the object to keep it off the floor. Halstead suggested a much more literal title based on that continuous volley. Mintonette officially became Volleyball. With a new name came essential hardware upgrades. In 1900, the first official custom-manufactured volleyball was introduced, giving players a lighter piece of equipment that responded quickly to a strike. By 1916, players began experimenting with offensive strategy. They realized they could pop the ball up high for a teammate, who would then jump and smash it downward into the opponent's court. The introduction of the set and the spike moved the sport away from simple fitness and toward high-velocity competition. Volleyball was no longer a cooperative exercise, it was a high-speed duel. Morgan didn't write these offensive moves into his original rulebook. The players themselves patched the mechanics, proving that an active user base ultimately decides how a game is actually played. Because the YMCA had outposts everywhere, volleyball enjoyed a built-in global distribution network. By the 1930s, the sport had leaped from Massachusetts gymnasiums to courts across Europe, Asia, and South America. It also adapted to local environments. In California, players moved the nets onto the sand to invent beach volleyball. With the game mutating across different continents and surfaces, it needed a unified rulebook. In 1947, the Fédération Internationale de Volleyball, or FIVB, was established in Paris to govern the sport worldwide. The FIVB quickly standardized the rules and validated this new global system by launching the first men's world championship in 1949 and the women's in 1952. Establishing this strict international governance took volleyball out of local recreation centers and turned it into a highly regulated global institution. That organizational structure paved the way for this highest tier of athletic competition. In 1964, volleyball debuted as an official Olympic sport at the Tokyo Olympics. The chaotic, infinite-player free-for-all of Morgan's original design was gone. In its place was a rigid geometric system, exactly 6 players per side, with a strict maximum of 3 touches to return the ball. Forcing teams to execute an attack in just 3 moves necessitates extreme specialization. It eventually led to the creation of the libero, a dedicated defensive player whose sole job is keeping the ball alive in the backcourt. The Olympic portfolio expanded again in 1996 in Atlanta, when the high-stamina 2-on-2 variation of beach volleyball officially joined the Games. These strict numerical limits on space and touches are what drive athletes toward higher levels of innovation and tactical speed. Today, volleyball is actively governed by the FIVB and played competitively in more than 220 countries and territories. Modern international matches are high-tech, highly produced spectacles, complete with instant video challenge systems and advanced analytics tracking every movement. The humble indoor activity designed in 1895 has long since been eclipsed. Morgan's mechanical foundation proved strong enough to carry the sport from a small Massachusetts gym into the stratosphere of modern Olympic athletics.